Welcome to rSlash Today I F'd Up, where OP stupidly gets himself arrested. Today I F'd up by trying to break a buddy out of jail. It worked for a minute. At the time, I was in the military station stateside. One night, a group of buddies and I discovered Jaeger bombs. Round after round, we kept them coming, and before we knew it, the night had flown by. My friend Brian offered to drive my roommate and me back to our off-base apartment. We didn't make it far. A car full of three 21-year-olds leaving a bar at 2 a.m. near a military base, that drew police attention. We got pulled over, and as soon as the officer reached Brian's window, it was clear we were drunk. All of us admitted it. Brian blew into the breathalyzer and failed instantly. He was cuffed and placed in the back of the patrol car. Then the officer turned to my roommate and me. He explained that if one of us blew under the limit, we could drive Brian's car home and save him the impound fees. We both tried, we both failed. Here's where it gets weird. The officer left us with Brian's car and the keys. Then he drove off with Brian to book him into the local jail. To this day, I have no idea why he left us like that. About 20 minutes later, my roommate and I had what seemed like a brilliant idea. Now, this all happened years ago, back when DUI penalties were just starting to become as serious as they are today. We were young, reckless, and unbelievably stupid. I don't condone drinking and driving in any way, and I'm grateful that nobody was hurt. Now, back to the bad ideas. Both my roommate and I were military police officers. We felt guilty for letting Brian drive us, and now he was in trouble. So, with zero judgment, we decided to drive Brian's car back to the apartment ourselves. It wasn't far, but that doesn't excuse the stupidity. And then, somewhere between leaving the car and arriving home, we came up with the ultimate plan. We're going to break Brian out of jail. Here's the master plan, step by step. 1. Return Brian's car to our apartment. 2. Brush our teeth, pop in gum. 3. Shave and get into our military police uniforms. 4. Put on our guard belts to look like we're on duty. 5. Call my precinct's dispatch and ask them not to contact the jail that Brian was at. 6. Call the jail directly, pretending to be my command. I asked if any military members were in custody. They confirmed Brian was there. I then asked if we could take him into custody. They said yes. 7. Switch cars, leave Brian's car at the apartment and take one of our own. 8. Give ourselves one last pep talk, then head out. We pull into the jail parking lot around 4 a.m. It was completely empty. We buzzed at the entrance and explained that we were there to take custody of Brian, and we were told, okay. 25 of the longest minutes of my life later, a loud buzzer sounded. The heavy metal door slid open, and there stood 2 correction officers and Brian in handcuffs. The look on his face was priceless. Jaw dropped, pale as a ghost. I told the officers I'd put my own cuffs on him so they could take theirs back. I even gave him a pat down before swapping them out. And just like that, Brian was in my custody. We thanked the officers, walked him out, and headed across the lot towards our car, hearts pounding. That's when my roommate whispered, "Don't get in the car! Don't get in the car!" I turned around to see the arresting officer standing behind us. He looked us dead in the eye and asked, "Aren't you two the passengers from the vehicle I pulled over tonight?" Busted! Our luck had run out. The lot had been empty when we arrived, but while we were inside waiting, the arresting officer had pulled in and was sitting in his patrol car doing paperwork. He watched us walk Brian out of jail like it was nothing. You can guess what happened next. We all went to jail. By 8 a.m., our command came to get us. Back at base, I was told to go home, pack my things, and be ready because this was not going to end well. The next day, I returned and didn't leave base for 45 days until we deployed again. The fallout. I was punished to the fullest extent of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I disappointed a lot of people, and I carried that shame. But at the same time, I was infamous. Word spread fast. Everyone knew about the failed jailbreak, and for better or worse, it made us celebrities. People said we embodied loyalty. You had to admire that audacity, even if the execution was insane. Thankfully, this didn't end my career. I served out my enlistment honorably, and I've never screwed up like that again. Looking back now, it was crazy, reckless, and absolutely stupid. But it's also one of those wild stories that remind me of the bonds that we had as brothers in arms. We tried to break a friend out of jail, and for a brief, glorious moment, it worked. This top comment. For all you know, you're now a test case in officer training school in which students are challenged on how they'd handle this. Yeah, OP, it's a pretty good story. I think good friends will bail you out of jail. Great friends will get themselves arrested so they can spend the night in jail with you. Today I effed up by letting my mom smoke with me. So this happened last weekend, and I'm still catching flack for it. My mom is 68, uses a walker, and generally has the vibe of a retired librarian who used to be wild in the 70s, but now just collects tea and watches British crime shows. She's always been curious about weed since it's legal now where we live, and I've joked about smoking with her before, but it was never serious. Well, she was in a good mood. My dad was out running errands, and I had just rolled a joint. She looked at me, grinned, and said, "Maybe I'll try a puff." My stupid self thought, what's the worst that could happen? And said, "Hell yeah, Mom, let's go." Big mistake. 10 minutes in, she's giggling at absolutely nothing and says that she feels like her walker is too loud. I don't even know what that means. I check, it's not making any noise. She tells me it's probably echoing through the cosmos. I laugh, she laughs, we're vibing. 20 minutes in, it's time to go back inside. This is where it starts to unravel. We live in a one-story house, but there's a small step up to the door or a ramp a few feet away. I remind her, use the ramp, don't try the step. She nods like she totally gets it, then turns directly towards the step and just stands there for a full 90 seconds like she's trying to solve a physics problem. Eventually, she turns around and goes, "Where the hell is the ramp? Did somebody move it?" No, Mom, it's literally right there. I guide her to it like a baked shepherd and get her safely inside. 30 minutes in, she's now experiencing full-on munchies. I leave her alone in the kitchen for 5 minutes to grab her a blanket. When I came back, the crime scene unfolds. She's got 3 empty ice cream containers in front of her, 2 generic ones, and the nice one my dad buys for himself and hides behind the frozen peas. That man rations his ice cream like it's gold. She demolished it, all of it. She looks at me with innocent, wide eyes and says, "I only meant to take a bite to see if I liked it." I ask if she even realized that it was Dad's special stash. She goes, "Oh, that explains the peas." 1 hour later, Dad comes home. I try to casually redirect him from the freezer. He, of course, goes straight to it and lets out this soul-deep, "What the F?" And my mom immediately starts fake snoring on the couch like she's been asleep for hours. Now, I'm the villain for corrupting my own mother and letting her get stoned to steal a man's joy. Today I effed up by telling my husband he needs to pay me if we open our relationship. I'm a 32-year-old woman and my husband is 31. We were talking about friends of ours who opened their relationship with a written contract. A maximum of 5 people, no friends or family, full honesty, etc. My husband told me that the girl had no choice, either accept the contract or her boyfriend would leave. But apparently she was okay with it in the end because he convinced her and she agreed. Whatever works for them, their relationship, their rules. Why not? I told my husband, if I had to open my relationship, I'd need to be paid for it. I explained that, for me, something like this would only make sense if both sides benefit. I have zero interest in sleeping with strangers, so for me, the benefit would have to be money to make up for the effort. I added that the price would have to be high, so it actually feels like a burden. He looked skeptical. I just said it's a win-win. Everyone gets what they want and need. That kind of deal must be fair for both parties. He asked how much, and I laughed and said $500 plus $100 more per partner, resetting every year. We both laughed and moved on. So what OP means here is the first partner costs $500, the second partner costs $600, etc. Later, he came back and asked me again what my price was. That's when I realized he might actually be considering it. It was supposed to be a joke. We've never even talked about opening our relationship. We do have our issues. Our love life is not the greatest since we have kids, but we're trying to make it work. Now I can't stop thinking that he might actually want this and I don't. I should have set a higher price. So yeah, I regret saying that. OP, when you said you wanted to set a high price, I was shocked when you said $500. Yeah, obviously everyone's financial situation is different, but $500 to step out on the relationship? I think most people would consider that a deal. Today I effed up by accidentally teaching my boyfriend's cat that love means shoving her foot in your mouth. My boyfriend has this little chaos goblin of a cat named Magoo. She's a lovable menace with strong, I do what I want energy. Earlier today, she stretched her paw out towards me in that casual, I own you way that cats do. And in a moment of pure intrusive thought energy, I jokingly put her paw in my mouth. Not in a gross way, no biting, no licking, just a harmless nom. Intrusive thoughts won, as usual. Yes, I know it's gross. I fully recognize this cat walked in a litter box. But this was not a logical decision. It was a dumb, impulsive moment. No thoughts. Anyway, she immediately pulled her paw back like, ew, WTF, human? Fair. I assumed that was the end of our weird little exchange. Nope. Not even 5 seconds later, she reaches out her other paw. But this time, she looks weirdly intentional about it. I laugh, open my mouth again because clearly I've learned nothing. And she straight up willingly shoves her whole foot down my throat like she's trying to check my tonsils. I gag. She looks smug. I realize I've made a huge mistake. Here's the thing. I don't think she understands why I put her foot in my mouth in the first place. I think she just decided, oh, this is how we show affection now. This is our thing, like some kind of ceremonial bonding ritual. And now she keeps trying to do it again. Every time I lie down or yawn or open my mouth too wide, she's there, ready, watching. Toe beans at full extension. The cat thinks she's unlocked the secret to bonding with humans. And unfortunately, that secret is gagging us with her foot. The truly cursed part? I'm kind of mildly excited to see her try it on my boyfriend. He has no idea. I can already picture it. He yawns innocently, and suddenly he's choking on a fuzzy toe bean surprise. I've seen the look in her eye. She's just waiting for the right moment. You know, honestly, OP, I think this is an upgrade from the more typical way that cats express their affection, which is to shove their butthole in your face. Today I effed up by showing my family the ugliest finger. When I was a kid, probably between 8 and 10, I was messing around on my mom's phone. I went into her camera roll and saw something. Now, I had zero idea what I was looking at. My brain could not comprehend it. To me, it looked like some kind of horrible, wrinkly, mutant finger. The ugliest finger I'd ever seen in my life. Naturally, I did what any responsible big sister would do. I showed my little sister, "Look at this ugly finger." She agreed. It was hideous. Then I decided to show my mom this cursed finger. Big mistake. Her eyes went wide. She gasped, and then she moved faster than I'd ever seen her move. She grabbed the phone like it was about to explode and deleted the picture right in front of me. When I went back later, it was gone. At the time, I didn't think too much about it. Years later, though, I realized it was not a finger. Not even close. So, yeah, I proudly showed my little sister and my mom some random guy's junk, convinced I discovered the world's ugliest finger. Down in the comments, we have this story from Vanguard Raven. I was like 4 or 5 rummaging through my mother's drawers when I found this sort of giant plastic finger. It had some twist switch on the base, so I twisted it and it started vibrating. My mother was preoccupied when all this happened, so I turned to her and said, "Look, Ma, a giant finger!" She teleported to my side and snatched that thing away from me. And I was pretty confused since she seemed pretty angry. I forgot about it for years until I realized that it was not, in fact, a giant finger. Today I effed up by pretending to faint at work because I fell from my chair. I'm a 24-year-old woman, and I was at my station just mindlessly spinning around in my swivel chair. You know how we all do it when we're bored. Except this time, my chair completely slipped out from under me, and next thing you know, I'm on the floor. Now, our office is usually dead quiet. So, of course, the sound of me hitting the ground was loud enough to make the whole department stop what they're doing and look to where the sound came from. Instead of standing up, my lizard brain decided that the best way to save face was to play dead. I shut my eyes and went limp like I'd actually fainted. Bad move. Within seconds, people were crowding around me asking if I was okay. The company nurse and my manager were summoned. I kept the act going for a couple of minutes. When I regained consciousness, I told them I was feeling better and was ready to go back to work. But my manager insisted I go to the ER and wouldn't let me back to the office unless I had a doctor's note saying that I was fit to go back to work. So here I am in the emergency room having some labs and tests done because I'm too embarrassed to admit that I fell from my chair. Also, OP points out that this did not take place in America, so OP doesn't have to deal with crazy medical bills. Yeah, OP, I don't know what you expected to happen. If someone passed out for several minutes, everyone around them would insist they go to the hospital. So maybe you did bump your head on the way down because that was some stupid thinking. That was rSlash Today I F'd Up, and if you like this content, check out my Patreon where I publish extra episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.